BBC Radio.
6 Music.
You are now entering a parallel universe. And wipe your feet on the way in.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
4. Greatest sounding records ever to one of the greatest sounding broadcasters ever. That would be Bobby Hughes over there in Beverley, Yorkshire. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How is you?
Yeah, good, thanks. We had a great session from Fruit Towns tonight, so I'm buzzing, and now I'm talking to you, good. So that will do nicely.
Wonderful. What a record that is, by the way. Love Like Blood. I'm going to play that for my Mrs. Jane, because she loves that, as many people do.
Well, was Jane a bit of a goth back in the day?
She was, yeah. She's a right goth. I'll have to show you some pictures. Yeah, you're serious goth. Used to go to, there's a place in Leeds called the Warehouse, which was a very big goth hangout back in the day.
There was also a place called the Faversham, which was a big goth hangout.
Well, she used to go to the Faversham, I think, every Friday night, then he'd go on to the Warehouse.
Right.
So, yeah, it was. She was a major goth.
Right.
So we are keeping with 6 Music sort of 80s day, aren't we? Because this is the NME for the 23rd of February, 1985.
Good work, Bobbert.
Page 2 here, you've got, let's see, Billy Bragg has teamed up with Labour leader Neil Kinnock. It's the launch of Labour's new jobs and industry campaign, one facet of which is a series of live dates in March by his Braggship under the umbrella of Jobs for Youth. Such direct party political sponsorship is rare in rock music, and the gigs aim to help focus attention on Labour's policies for the young in the hope of capturing a larger slice of the youth vote at the next election. The 8 concerts on the Jobs for Youth tour are now confirmed. They'll be supported by the Sid Presley Experience and Porky the Poet, with members of the Labour Party at each venue. Porky the Poet, of course, Phil Jupitus.
Hello, Phil. Yeah, completely.
I've just wondered, I went and saw one of the Red Wedge gigs at Stockport Town Hall. That would have probably been 87, I think. Was this the first time, pop music got involved with a political party in such a way, do you think?
Well, you had the MC5 with the Panthers.
I'll talk about in Britain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe, mate, maybe, yeah. I mean, I know, obviously, Roy Wood upset the Harold Wilson, didn't he?
I think that was the reverse, wasn't it? Just getting up somebody's nose, yeah. But yeah, also on page 3 here, you've got Bradford has now distractions to lure the would-be visitor in the shape of its 6-storey National Museum of Photography, Film and Television. In particular, an up-and-coming show of Cornell Lucas's showbiz publicity shots from the post-war years until the collapse of the star system in the late 50s. Cornell Lucas worked for, amongst others, Columbia and Universal Pictures and her own dear departed Rank Films, taking the photographs that turned actors into stars. The museum also boasts the biggest cinema screen in Britain, the IMAX, a Canadian system whose current presentation of breathtaking little number to fly makes Superman's aerial wizardry seem positively flat-footed. Needs to mention this because Bradford is the world's first UNESCO of film, isn't it? The Bradford itself as a city. And I also have to mention, I don't know whether you've seen it yet, but BBC do a series called Storyville, and over Christmas, or just before Christmas, there was just a fantastic film about amateur filmmakers in Bradford. It's called A Bunch of Amateurs, which was just sort of funny and poignant and fascinating and so moving at the same time. It's just can't recommend it highly enough.
Well, our mutual mate, Howard Knock, sent us through a link not so long ago, and me and Trace talked about it today. We're going to watch it over the weekend. Really looking forward to that. And, talking of filmic, so Mark Radcliffe and myself, we just presented Top of the Pops really badly, twice, but we went to Elstree Studios and, walking around those places, they had stills of a lot of the films that were actually made there. And, the sense of wonderment within it is just so brilliant. So, I'm with you all the way there, Bobby.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Also in the news page here, the Beach Boys are planning a UK tour in the summer involving 2 or 3 gigs at the Wembley Arena, plus several regional dates. If it materialises, it'll be their first visit to Britain since founder member Dennis Wilson passed away a year ago. The tour would tie in with the release of a new album. I always thought it's such a shame that the more the Beach Boys kept going, the more that legend got diluted, because they were just rehashing some stuff. They did, didn't they do a version of Wipeout with the Fat Boys around this time?
Did they?
It just, yeah.
Right.
Obviously, Mike Love was leading it, really, so it was just really... and Eugene Landy, who was supposedly looking after Brian Wilson at that point, got co-writing credits. It was just seemed to be such a mess by the mid-'80s. On the same page, in tiny, tiny print, Bob Geldof has confirmed NME's report from 3 weeks ago that he's planning a super concert in the summer, simultaneously in London and New York for worldwide broadcast. It's understood this would probably be in July. As we know, this was Live Aid. And under that, Bruce Springsteen's eagerly awaited British visit, so NME understands, will now take place in September, where he'll play a series of concerts, possibly a week, at London's Earl's Court, capacity 15,000. Much depends upon Springsteen himself and his well-known reputation for dithering and changing his mind, it says here.
I didn't know that was his reputation. I thought he had a reputation for being the boss.
Me too.
Yeah, except what kind of a boss is that who spends all day dithering?
You don't want a dithery boss, do you?
I always maintained he didn't deserve that nickname, so no. I think we've just taken it back off him. I hope someone tells him.
Are you saying he should be called a ditherer instead?
I think so, Bob. Let's start a campaign.
NME has been inundated, it says here, with phone calls and letters for several months asking for news of his projected UK shows. Fuel was added to the fire when Peter Powell recently declared on TV that Springsteen will be here real soon, while several national newspapers also suggested his visit is imminent. You forget, it's easy to forget, isn't it? 1985 was a year of Born in the USA, and he became this global superstar. And it might be one of the reasons why I never quite got into him, because you were hearing stuff like, was it Glory Days and Dancing in the Dark, which just seemed like such middle-of-the-road pop, to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love Nebraska, don't they? And it's not an album that I know that well, but, you know, stuff like The River, I mean, I do like those. And you have to say, I mean, you know, for all its pomp and glory, Born to Run is one of the great records, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I've never really gone for it. I mean, in fact, to be honest, I've been to see Bruce Springsteen twice, and I did walk out twice. So, I mean, make your own mind up. But having said that, both of the shows were probably 3 hours long, which is, I probably did watch an hour of him, which is pretty much enough of most people.
Yeah, do you know what? I have been to see him. I was reviewing it, I'll be honest, and it did go on for 3 hours at the Etihad, actually, and it was pretty impressive at times.
Was that your review? It was pretty impressive at times.
It was just a one-liner, really, but anyway.
I was going to say, I hope you don't get paid by the word, mate.
Should we go to the indie charts?
I think we better add, really. We're going to play Fetus now, aren't we?
We are indeed, yeah.
And this is Wash It All Off, which I've got on a 12-inch single, which is a lot longer than 4 minutes and 3 seconds. But there you go, we're going to take it. Talking of great sounding records, oh my word, that was Fetus and Wash It All Off. Just remarkable, brilliant record.
Absolutely. So much energy in that. Incredible, isn't it? So we'll look at the NME here, 23rd of February 1985, and Richard Cook goes to meet former Eagle Don Henley. He says Henley's new record, Building the Perfect Beast, proves to be a lot more than another hippie burnout. One side collects thoughtful love songs, the other ruminates on the state of his country with insight, and the first showing of Blood, it almost eludes the weary West Coast bag. Elsewhere, though, he raises an issue. Don says, I tried to make this record upbeat so you could dance to it, but there's words there as well. Some kids don't read much anymore. Most of the information they get is from TV or music. I think songwriters have a responsibility because of that. The LP's most singular example comes in the last lines of Boys of Summer, which is a sort of bit of a requiem for his generation. He says, I was driving down the San Diego freeway and got passed by a $21,000 Cadillac Seville, the status symbol of the right-wing upper-middle-class American bourgeoisie. All the guys with the blue blazers with the crests and the grey pants, and there was this Grateful Dead Deadhead bumper sticker on it. And it just sort of, there is that thing, and I think Tom Wolfe sort of hinted at it in Bonfire of the Vanities, didn't he, about all the baby boomers and the people who were kind of counterculture hippies back in the 60s were captains of industry by the 80s.
Well, I mean, again, it's that's the story behind Captain Beefheart, wasn't it? Because he was poorly, you know, but he gave up music and continued to paint, and he was selling a lot of his artwork to the Silicon Valley guys who were like multi-millionaires and really very, very clever, but who were at the heart of the counterculture, weren't they? You know, they're all dropping acid and telling people not to get a job, and then, you know, 10 years later, they're right at the top of the tree, and, make of it what you will.
That was exactly it. And on Beefheart, I'm guessing he made far more money there than he ever did playing music.
I expect so, mate, yeah.
Sadly, yeah. On the rock biopic front, it says rock movies seem to be well in vogue at the moment. Mick Jagger's trying to raise $20 million to produce a film of Gore Vidal's Messiah novel Kalki. Guess who gets to play the messianic role, it says here. Meanwhile, Ringo Starr and Harry Nilsson are reconsidering the extent of their ambitions. In the Bob Hope Bing Crosby mould comes Road to Australia, a film that Harry and Ringo aren't happy about despite the presence of Ringo's wife, Barbara Bach. I couldn't find much information on this, but it didn't happen, I don't think. But they made a stinker of a film in the 70s called Son of Dracula, which was just a bad idea. But you've got two very wealthy guys who probably think, well, let's do another one.
Well, I mean, Ringo Starr famously filmed Born to Boogie, the T-Rex film, didn't he? So he had aspirations there and money behind him, but maybe not the talent to pull it off. I don't know. But the look of... You were describing that film that didn't happen. The look of disgust coming across from Yorkshire there, mate. I'm glad it didn't happen. For your sake.
Also, news of a Jimi Hendrix bioflick based on the stage show by Hendrix's old chum and lookalike Jack Hammer. Electric God is described by one of its producers as a rock opera-ish. Whatever mess he makes of the film or not, Hammer will still be highly regarded round here at NME as the man who wrote Great Balls of Fire. I mean, how many Hendrix biopics have been mooted over the years? We seem to kind of dig them out of papers at regular intervals, don't we? It's never really happened in any significant way.
Well, there was that one with Andre 2000, or is it 3000? I can never remember.
3000, yeah.
But he starred as Jimi Hendrix in a really bad biopic not that long ago.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Really don't.
Right. Yeah. The Brit Awards, reported on by David Quantick. Literally a footnote here at the bottom of the page. He says once a year, the British record industry presents itself with a load of awards. And also once a year, the BBC presents us with the spectacle of a bunch of Radio 1 DJs dressed up in penguin suits and sporting perms that look like the product of an afternoon in Ella's of Totnes. Generally, the whole affair is unspeakably sordid. This year's British Record Industry Awards was a tad surreal. It was something of a surprise that Prince turned up to the ceremony at all, and it was something of a bigger surprise when, on the announcement of him winning Best Something or Other, a 7-foot hulk of a man with a white beard arose from a table and rumbled up to the stage before people realised that Prince was actually walking behind him. When he got to the stage, he mumbled something to the effect of, "Oh wow," and walked off again. I do remember that. I think that may have been one of the first that was Brit Awards that was televised, perhaps. I do sort of remember him doing that.
Okay, I didn't see that.
All right, fair enough. And David Quantick also reports on, I'm hoping this is true, because I have sort of read things to this effect. He says, when I was just left school, he says I was drifting into any job, and me and a friend found ourselves in a room with the head of Gold Discs UK. All around us were thousands of copies of New Guitar in Town, a late Lurkers single. It was our job to dip them all in gold paint, change the label to that of the award-winning artiste, and put them on a nice piece of cardboard. All right, so I had read something like this, and I can believe it's true as well. He said, we spent many happy months at this task. Then one day, he'll remain nameless, my friend came in with a grin on his face, and in his hand he carried a copy of Crass's Sheep Farming in the Falklands. Before my amazed eyes, he dipped it in gold paint, put it on a nice piece of cardboard and put a label on it. It was, to my horror, now the gold disc for Danish sales of Duran Duran's New Moon on Monday. You can't do that, I said, but he did, and he sent it off to Parlophone.
Brilliant. Oh, well, I mean, obviously David Quantick is riddled with mischief, but it sounds like it was legit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He said it all came unstuck when, on an episode of Saturday Superstore, John Craven brandished the disc, placed it on the turntable, and the unmistakable sound of Crass came surging up. I have, he warned, unearthed a grave scandal in the music industry. My friend got sacked. I left the job too, and he said the boss got put in prison for a while.
Hang on a minute. And that's, you kind of, really? Right, okay. I wonder if the mischief took over or if that is true. No wonder you were slightly doubting it, Bob, with that ending, but...
Okay, I love it, though. Have we got time for gigs of the week?
Yeah, mate, go for it.
Okay, we got The Fall at Hammersmith Town Hall. We got Nico at the 100 Club in London. Steve Marriott's Packet of Three at Panthers Club in Bellingham. Ivor Cutler and Adrian Mitchell at Wandsworth Civic Centre. Nick Lowe and his cowboy outfit at the Mean Fiddler in Harlesden. Would he have been married to Johnny Cash's daughter, to Carleen at that point, would he, Nick Lowe?
I'm not sure. I'll ask him.
Sisters of Mercy at Manchester Ritz, Killing Joke we've heard at Manchester Apollo, Einsturz Sender Neubauten at the Hacienda in Manchester, Captains of Industry at Leeds Beer Keller, that would be Reckless Eric, no less.
Absolutely.
And the Ramones at the Lyceum, the Nightingales at Canterbury Kent, and the Banessettes at Fulham Greyhound. It's Glenn Matlock and Jerry Nolan, I think.
Was it?
Could be. Well, so it says here. I didn't know that.
Okay. All right,
But
mate.
anyway, yeah.
We gotta go.
We have got to go, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna leave now with Prince and the Revolution and Let's Go Crazy. Thanks to you, Bob. Thanks to Fruit Towns and also to Michelle and Peter and Hobbers and Gaz. And Giddy's next, and we'll see you on Monday night. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Mark Riley, BBC Six Music.
And shut the door on your way out.